What is the price we're willing to pay? Maybe that's the question we should ask ourselves this Lent, and especially this Sunday. You know, I remember as a young boy, my father and grandfather taking me to a train expo, a model train expo. I think it was maybe more for them at that point than for me, but I do remember wanting this one train car, Lionel train car. I wanted it more than anything. Now my dad tried to haggle the guy down, and the guy wouldn't accept anything he would offer, and we walked away disappointed. But all of a sudden I realized my grandfather wasn't there in the midst of the crowd, and as I turned around to look for him, I saw him coming through the crowd toward us. Now he had his glasses off, and I have to say, I didn't recognize him. But apparently he had gone back to that table with his glasses off and haggled the man down and bought me the model train car. And I was a happy kid that day. What's the price we're called to pay? What is it that we can pay? You know, in the first reading this weekend, we'll hear about the Akedah, the sacrifice of Isaac, the binding of Isaac. God asks Abraham to offer him his only son on Mount Moriah as a Holocaust offering. Abraham obeys. So does Isaac. You think Isaac couldn't have run away from Abraham? This was a boy and a 100-year-old man. But both men complied. They climbed the mountain. Isaac carried the wood on his back and was then laid on the altar. And at that moment of condemnation, that moment of certain death, God sent his angel and stayed Abraham's hand. What is the price we must pay if Abraham was asked to sacrifice something so precious? So precious. We have to ask ourselves this Lent, what is it I can give God? Men and women throughout the ages, theologians and philosophers alike, have all said they were scandalized by this episode in the Old Testament. They say they cannot imagine, they cannot believe in a God who would ask Abraham to do this. Such a cruel thing. But I have to ask, and maybe we should ask ourselves, all of us this Lent, ask ourselves, do we ever feel that way about God the Father, who sacrificed his Son for us? Lent is a time to recall that sacrifice, to recall that price that has already been paid. You know, there is a scandal in our day. And in a time, in a culture where there are so many scandals, there's one we need to remember this Lent, and that's the scandal of the cross. Jesus Christ paid the price for us, for all sinners. And there was no angel sent by the Father to stay the hand of justice. Like Isaac, Jesus had to climb that mountain, carrying the wood of the cross. And like Isaac, he was laid upon the altar of the cross. Unlike Isaac, Jesus died. But that's not the end of the story. We hope throughout Lent. We remember throughout Lent. We move toward Easter throughout Lent. The gospel we hear about is the Transfiguration. Jesus, the Son of God, ascended the mountain with his closest followers, his closest friends and disciples, and on top of that mountain, he was revealed to them in glory. The journey of Lent is one between the journey of the cross and the journey of the open tomb, between death and resurrection. We follow the path of Christ, and in so doing, whenever we climb that mountain, whenever we walk away from life and we're disappointed because we feel we do not have what it takes to pay the price for our sins, we can say with confidence that that is true, because the price has already been paid by Jesus Christ. And because of that, we are fully alive. And no matter what mountain the Church of Pittsburgh has to climb, you can be sure that at the top, we will find his altar. And more importantly than anything, we will find him.